Hello, welcome back to another exciting session of SAP SuccessFactor. And we have started with our typical architectural leading practices, and we have already discussed few sessions in the past. So people who are new, welcome back. And we have in the SAP SuccessFactor, I have divided all the learning into 17 different tracks, right? And out of that, first track was all focused on the process part, and second part, as we are discussing, it is more of a architecture part, right? And in the architecture part, actually we are covering the entire thing into a different episodes in the LP series guide. And in this series guide, in the episode 1, we have covered organization structure. In the episode 2, we have covered instance strategy and instance governance. In episode 3, the first part, we have covered up to the security strategy, and today's session will be more about the understanding the security governance part of it. When I say security, it is we're not going to talk about the identity access management, those IAM functionality. That will be in a separate session, but we are more focused on the role-based permission framework. That is your typically we call it also an RBP. Okay. In case you have missed any of the sessions, don't worry. So we can go to my website, that is niladrinayak.in, and in that website I have given a free resources, and inside that, if you scroll, you will be redirected. There will be something called best of my YouTube channel, and from that there is a section, there is a card called look at your HR systems from architect point of view. Okay, simply click the watch now button from there, and you will be redirected to my playlist, and this playlist getting updated every week. Okay, so here you can see all the past episodes, whatever I have already covered, you will be getting from here. And as you see, these are the 4 episodes or the 3 episodes, but in the different parts I have covered it. And today we are going to start with the security governance. In the last session, we'll be finding the 3A, that is the leading practices for security strategy in the SAP SuccessFactors. Right. So now with that note, let's then get started with today's session, right? So when I say governance, what comes to your mind? When already I have explained the same thing when we discussed in the instance governance, right? So let's see what this our AI tool says. Maybe the security governance, we will say, let's see from what it is saying. We will be using our artificial intelligence question. Let's see that. Let this system explain that what does it mean. So this artificial intelligence tool, say it may not be or may not be 100% correct, but it will we'll just try to understand the basic definition of it. So when I say security governance, it is the process of establishing and maintaining organization security policies, standards, and procedure, right? So in the past session, we talked about more from an RBP point of view, right? But from a security governance point of view, we'll be going more detail about it. Very focused. This is generic definition of a security governance, what it is mean. But we will be looking at from an RBP lens, from SAP SuccessFactor RBP lens, we are going to understand this thing, how does it work, and why you should bother about it, right? Now, without any further ado, let's move on to the ALP guide, which we are continuing the SAP official guide for our RBP or role-based permissions. What does it say when it comes to the governance, security governance? Even you can see they are using the same terminology. Okay, so whether today you are using SAP SuccessFactor or tomorrow you'll be using Workday or Oracle, it doesn't matter. The concept, the architectural concept remains the same, but how it works, it will be a little different from product to product, but more or less they are similar in nature. The principles and strategies, which I always focus for, I always say to the students that you should remember, you should understand, because tools may change, but your principles, strategies, this remains always evergreen, right? There will be best practices, there will be leading practices, there will be industry best practices will come up in the future. But again, you have to always focus. So what is in the product? How does it actually meet those requirements? Is there any gap? Okay, so you have to understand as well. So in that note, let's then get started. We'll try to understand 4 things from here. As a diagram says, as I will be saying that we are security governance. We're not going to cover everything, but specific to the permission framework, we will be focusing. And for that reason, we will be focusing more on here, like your permission governance, security governance. We'll be focusing our learning to the permission, or you can say RBP, when it comes to SAP SuccessFactors, RBP security governance. So that is what our focus area to learn today. So governance is everywhere. Even if you go for any school or university, they do have a governance, right? They have a set of policies, set of standards, set of procedure. Even if you go for any country, at the country level also, like the political parties and all who are ruling the country, they do have their own thing, right? But it is a little different from that. It is more concerned towards security. But governance as a term, actually you should understand what does it mean, right? Okay. So when it comes to security governance, we have to see 4 things here. First of all, permission, see and do. So first highlight point. Permission in SuccessFactors drive what user can see and do. So very simple terminology. The words they have focused to see and do. What are the activities you can view it? What are the activities you can do it? Do means are you able to edit it, or whether you are able to write, okay? Whether you are able to access, view it or not. So those things actually drive. This is the first point. Okay, it is very easy to understand. Already we have seen in the previous sessions, like how we can give an access, a particular role to only read access. Certain role will be giving only, let's say, read and or edit access. So that's the thing. What you can see, what you can do, right? Second principle here, we will be understanding there are various places within SuccessFactors for setting up permissions. Yeah. So this is something I will be give you generally in the upcoming hackathons. I generally ask my students that what are the different various places where exactly you can set up the permissions. Is it only your RBP, your managed permission role, managed permission group? Is that the only thing, or there are some other places? So this I will keep it secret for now, but we will see in the upcoming minutes. You will be discovering that what are the different places. It is not only limited to your RBP, like a permission role, permission group. There are several other places also we do have permission. People who are coming from LMS background, you must have seen they are in SuccessFactors LMS learning. They have a domain concept. Okay, that's a completely different angle, right? Over and top of that, what are the current RBP we are having? Over and above, we are having a different thing there, right? So similarly, we also coming to the third point, organization also must determine how they will manage this responsibility, which is more of an operational activity. Like, because I have seen in a bigger organization, they have a dedicated security consultant as well. Generally for especially RBP, when it comes to SuccessFactors, because people will go and come, there will be a lot of attrition, there will be a lot of people will be new joinees in the onboarding stage, right? And who will be getting what kind of access? Unless and until if it is not automated, definitely there will be a human being who will be regulating all these things. Otherwise, there will be a problem, right? Whenever it comes to the data, your data security point of view or overall security governance point of view. So organization must determine. So this is a kind of a matrix we generally design, and based permission framework, it is a discussion required. So whenever you are discussing, generally, whenever you're going live, before that, this is a part of an implementation project. You have to set up that call. Maybe during your workbook discussion also, you can initiate that activity, that who will be given what kind of access, who in the sense, I'm saying the role, not the person, right? So which roles would be given, what kind of permission, and how to manage that, okay? So that you have to understand. And in organizations, as I say, it can be automated, it can be also manually driven by people or a group of people, or having a particular role who can on a regular basis, they can monitor this. If there is any issues, even if you do the 100% correct, there may be some lacuna. You will be finding some persons that you will be getting a ticket, right? Or incident, say that the person is having this role, but he is not able to access a particular feature, or let's say he is not able to check his payslip in the mobile, or he is not able to check a particular things in the, well, maybe it can be some career worksheet in CDP career development plan module. It can be that he is given access to the learning module, but a particular module is not visible to him. It can be many issues can come from a different angle. From a overall, if you think about the entire SuccessFactors product suite, right? So you have to understand an organization must determine how they will manage this responsibility, because this is a not a Herculean task, but if you understood the product properly, you understood what are the features, what are the different frame in the entire RBP framework, if you understood, then definitely it's not a very tough job to do. But if you do not understand, then you have to keep on searching, keep on checking the KBS from SAP and what would be the issues, right? But for that reason, at a very basic level, I will say this is a very important topic, right? You should not ignore RBP at all in any projects in SAP SuccessFactors. With that note, hope you understood the third point of the security governance. Now we're coming to the fourth point. Fourth point says most data in an HR system is sensitive. Yes, you must be agree with me. People who are already working in HR ops, they must be agreeing, right? So we have to also set up RBP with full understanding of permission impact. So we have to always do an impact analysis. Whenever we are doing a setup, any kind of a thing, any such a kind of an RBP framework, you have to understand which are the areas it is going to impact when the permission, by giving the permission, what he can do a proper testing. Okay, I have seen many people ignore the testing part of it, and many, including our consultants and different companies I have seen, they do the setup the RBP, but never that get a chance test it actually. So there should be a part of security testing. When I say security testing, it's just I'm focusing on the RBP only at this moment, not your IAM and all the things, right? So here you have to understand after the setup whether you also test properly, whether who are the person, who are the roles accessing a particular permission, check all events. You should have a user stories for security testing as well. Who can access what, which role can access what, prepare a proper user stories, and you just try to test those things as a part of your implementation project. Or if you're having adding some new permissions, definitely you do an end-to-end testing for that, so that it will be from that angle. Actually, you should be able to understand the permission impact, right? So that is these are the 4 points actually you have to understand from a security governance point of view. Okay, so to summarize what we have seen here, like the first point was permission in SuccessFactors drive what users can see and do. It will be, I will be putting it as like the first principle. I will put it like what permissions, just you can give a single word for it, anyone? Yeah, so what can we write now, our mind map? Yeah, so SuccessFactors will drive. So see and do means actual permissions, so like exact permissions you can see. We can use the see and do, but in a better terminology you can see if you add it. Access we can see. Okay, what kind of access, or yeah, I see a various comment in the chat section. So thanks for your input. Yeah, so that is, yeah, so basically last time whatever we have discussed in the RBP permission, right? Similar thing we can see. Let's simple word you can use see and do. First principle. Second principle is we can use the same highlighting options. There are various places, okay, places within SuccessFactors setting up, okay, places for RBP. Third principle here, as a governance point of view, right, you have to understand the responsibility, determining, or you can say, generally in your organization also they maintain a RASI matrix, okay, but you can say who is responsible. The RASI matrix, one thing comes up, who is responsible for what permissions, responsibility, define that properly. And the next one is your as we say, impact. Do an impact analysis, do a proper testing in that, right? So these are the 4 things you have to understand. I just try to simplify the thing, otherwise it's very easy. Impact analysis, and inside that you can do a activity like proper testing. Do proper testing. When I say security testing, I can say, but from a RBP point of view. It can be during your implementation. It can be during your, if you are creating any new roles or permissions inside that, let's say, it can be your implementation, which is a must. And during a support project, if you're working in MS projects also, you have to take care of it, do the impact analysis properly. Okay. So with that note, we will move on to the next part. Yeah. So now, if you see the entire permission framework, right? So there are different access point here, right? Module tab access, module page access, module again page detail. So there are again wherever the RBP is actually coming into picture, you can see that it is a kind of blue color. Okay, and other one, wherever like a performance management, SFSF goals, recruiting, success factor onboarding, compensation forms. So as we have discussed, the second, I think it is second principle, right? There are various places within success factor setting of the permissions. This is what actually, this is the connecting the dot between this slide and the upcoming this one. Okay, so there are various places. So you can have it from a module access point of view. We can have also from a page access point of view. Okay, so in the hackathon, I will be showing you so that how does it work in a typical, as we say, this is RLP guides. I'm not going to do much hands-on, but it will be more of a conceptual session. And in hackathons, actual the thing will, I will get it done or for you, and you have to perform those activities. What we understood from this theory, actually, you have to do the implementation part. Okay, so I always recommend to join my hackathons the upcoming days. See an announcement from me and YouTube. And you can see that there are multiple ways of doing it, right? So there are various cases, right? There are some yellow, golden color where exactly there are module specific permission, as I was saying, right? The learning management itself, because it's the original and plateau product, which SuccessFactors acquired, then it became SAP SuccessFactors Learning. So, but here you will be finding a lot of domain, those concepts, people who have already implemented learning module, or you have already seen that. There is a specific permission which comes, it's a purely different permission framework, okay, inside LMS. Okay, so the same goes with your SAP Jam and SAP Workzone also. They use HR card, they respect RBP, but there are also more detail about it. You will be finding specific to the Jam thing in a different document. Okay, so let me check it out. That I will discuss in the SAP Workzone, right? That whenever we'll be discussing the IDP series, after ALP series, we'll be starting a new series called IDP. In that, I will discuss. Okay, so for that timing, you just have your patience. So now, if you see here, there are certain things. We also have a mixture of RBP and form template. Many of the modules, like if you see the recruiting, PMGM, and onboarding, the compensation, they do have a specific form template as well. Okay, so it will be kind of a mixture of RBP and form templates we'll be using. And there are some colors you'll be seeing finding combination like workforce analytics. We do have either RBP or a WP, means workforce analytic permission, right? So these are the different permission framework as we by the principle number 2, which you have discussed just 10 minutes back, right? So same how it can be implemented, that is actually covered in this presentation. Hope you understood. If you do not understand, definitely welcome to my hackathon, where I will be taking you through all these things in a detailed way, right? So now coming to the next one, the template-based security model or employee-centric permissions. What does it mean? So there are different roles actually, E, EM, EX, and what does it mean? You have to put in the chat. I will see what are your responses, right? Then also we have a template-based security model in the XML level. Okay, in which are the modules? So you can find them very easily in your goal plan permissions, your PMGM recruiting permission, development plan. In those cases, wherever you are using all this kind of a template in through XML format, right? So those details you will be fine. It's a little tricky. But once you understand this concept, it is not so difficult to understand. Yeah. So there are certain things you can see. RBP doesn't cover any permission that are managed via templates. This is very important topic. Okay. So you as a consultant, you should be knowing that There are RBP is a different framework, and the template-based framework, whatever you are having, this is a completely different one. RBP doesn't cover this kind of permissions through a whatever already managing, it is already managed by a template, because template will take the priority here. Okay, and the permission will continue to be driven by the code of the form or plan templates. Okay, so the forms and templates, they will be prioritized. Okay, and actually, if you see, as we speak, as it is, this model is also evolving as we speak in today's date, in January 2023. There's a note you can say the long-term goal is to include permission set and templates in the RBP model. The future is actually mostly they are planning to move towards RBP. That will be the vision. But as we speak, this is how the fact. Okay? So this is, you have to understand. You have to also check the upcoming releases, if any changes is coming up and all. But that is SAP's vision, right? So this I'm not going to read in detail, right? But maybe we will be doing few activities when the hackathon series, and you will be seeing all this detail, like data access period setting, how we can do. Okay, so this will be again, if you see, like some scenario they have given. So if there is a scenario, so these use cases are very crucial whenever you'll be having a client conversations with them, right? You have to understand that what kind of scenarios it will be able to cover it, right? So you can see the HR admin required to store address information for 3 years, whereas payroll admin required it for 5 years, right? In such a situation, data access period settings can be used to give access to HR admins and payroll admins for visibility of the data for a different time periods, right? If we are having a such scenario, you have to think about it, right? And it is important to note data blocking is only available in Employee Central in reporting. So you have to take this call. So before committing anything to the customer, you have to understand what are the capabilities of the product, capabilities of this framework, capabilities of this particular entire security things when it comes to the SAP SuccessFactors. So you have to understand very detailed. And before committing anything, you have to just experiment or just try, even if the conceptually you understand, just try and test it. Like whether whatever you are, it is the theoretically the ALP guide is saying whether it is really working or not. So to test it, then you'll be getting confidence, then you will definitely able to pitch it into the client, right? Next, coming to business rules with the workflows. What does it mean? So you can utilize a combination of both your business rule and workflow to mitigate, which require very specific permission, like trigger a different workflow. The scenarios are very important for you guys. So you have to understand this example or the case studies or business case where which kind of permissions will be required at what point of time. So what does it say? Trigger a different workflow if the transaction is initiated by an admin versus HRBP in order to mitigate the additional access, right? This can be also done. So you can utilize the business rule and work combination of a workflow to, if you require any specific permission for that, right? This is another very good scenario. Now coming to the workflow design, as we speak on workflow design, there is a separate session for the workflow in my hackathon series. But here we will be discussing that as a part of your this particular workflow, by default, it is set to no. So you have to understand this, which allows workflow participants to see all the fields applicable to the workflow approval screens, regardless of their typical RBP constraints. Conversely, this functionality can be set to yes, which restricts the fields workflow participants will see based on RBP configuration. Workflows not respecting RBP should not impact. Okay, so this is a very important point. However, for those, you will want to consider which fields various workflow participants will have during the workflow approval process. When evaluating various decision points such as these, consider the level at which you need to design your security model. So again, the concept came, security model to enforce good behavior rather than trusting your HR professionals to act accordingly. So it always follow the best practices. Okay. So whenever you're deciding such thing, you have to always understand how does it impact the overall security model of the organization for HR. Okay. So that you have to discuss a lot. Okay. So I'm not going deep into it. So if you have any queries, definitely you can ask in my platform. If you're watching in YouTube, you can also ask there. Now coming to the visibility or associations, right? The visibility of objects like event regions or pay components. Okay, you can utilize using the association, the concept of association. What is an association? If you do not know, come back. You just go to revisit our EC foundation concept, the platform foundation concept in Employee Central, right? That I have covered there in my platform. Using association control data visibility for pay component instead of defining different permissions for it. So this will be, I will be giving a use case in the hackathon series what kind of scenarios you will be utilizing this particular functionality, particular kind of a consideration of a framework, right? So I'm not going detail about it, but this is the thing which we have to understand. Now, coming to the strategy. So you might have seen in my mind map, I always follow this one. So if you see the mind map itself, I always tell the people that this is not only specifically to your architecture, rather we also talk about the strategy. For that reason, the track 2 is named as strategy and architecture. Okay. So now we have one part we have covered here, the security governance part of it. Now let's discuss the strategy as well, right? So this is a kind of overlapping of these two modules, security strategy, we have discussed security governance. So now we'll be going back to security strategy point of view, and we'll try to understand how we can create a proper RBP strategy. Okay. So with that note, what I will do, I will mark it as a complete one. So let me put it as a green color. Yeah. So with that note, we have completed this segment of it. Again, we'll revisit that strategy once again. So we'll be actually jump in between, switch between these two things wherever the material drives us, right? So what are the different things we have to do whenever you are doing a designing an RBP strategy? Okay. First of all, as we discussed, you to understand customer specific business processes and security strategy, what they are following. Okay. And in that, what you need to do, you have to understand the global permission ownership and governance are very critical when replacing multiple local systems to one global SuccessFactors systems, right? So you may be having in many organizations which are global in nature, they might be having different local system, even in SuccessFactors also, right? So might be they may be having a, let's say you are having a project where you have presence in France, Japan, and India and UK, right? And maybe they individually at a country level they are having their own SuccessFactors instances, but which is, let's say it is very not very difficult. It is very difficult to actually if you're having a shared service model or so those kind of model or GIC kind of structure, maybe it will be little difficult to manage. Okay. So maybe let's say you are trying to bring into a replacing multiple local system with one global SuccessFactors system. Okay. So you need to understand what are the pros and cons. Okay. So as a consultant or as an architect, you have to understand that. And again, accordingly, you have to advise. Also, while doing that, take care of every aspect of that. How from a costing point of view, from a security point of view, from a different business requirement point of view, from different angle, you have to check it out. So first thing first, so you understood that you have to understand the ownership and as well as the governance, because this is strategy and governance here. Actually, these are very closely linked to each other, right? So now after understanding this, document everything, right? Document whatever we have seen in these steps, right? So you have to understand this and also follow the leading practices. So you have to also critically keep impact on the system performance. Whenever you're designing these things, understand that what are the different performance maintenance you have to understand from RBP point of view, and also from a governance point of view. Also, you can see you have to what are the different things you can see, and there are also some guiding principles. So let me check it out as well for you, which is the guiding principles you have to refer. So this is actually, I think it will take me to the help portal. And from that, there are some guiding principles. You will be definitely looking into it. Let's go there. Meanwhile, you can also open the thing. I've already said this document is an official document. This is not my own creation. So you can find it out from the portal, which we discussed earlier in SuccessFactors community. Okay, now it has been in group actually. Okay, ALP guide, you will find all the ALP guide. Okay, ALP series here. Here, groups.communitysuccessfactor.com. So from here, previously it was in the customer community and there is a specific tag for that. Now you can find out all our architectural leading practices. This is the only page. Okay. So where exactly you must be having an SUser ID, and from that you will be getting all those details about it here, right? So you can download all the architectural leading practices directly from here, right? So you can give a kudos if you like it, because this is something I think I'm the first person who gave the kudos here. So you can see that, and you can see that here. Go here in detail. You will be able to download all the assets, whatever the discussion we are doing now, right? You will be finding all the ALP guides from directly from here. Okay. So all this ILP guide is actually, I have seen that people do not study all this thing in detail, but it is recommended to go through each and everything before you go for any kind of implementation, or even if you're a project manager or at least a high level, you should understand it, because many times clients will, you should be able to, you should have a talking points, right? So if you're having this in your mind, at least you understood whatever is having, right? So at least you should be able to explain at a high level, right? So this is, I always recommend to use this official guides. Okay, now we are discussing this one, permission framework, right? So this is the permission framework, the PPT which I have taken. So this is the guide actually now I am explaining to you, all of you, right? So this is the point where exactly if you are not having this, just I will put the link in the chat, also in the YouTube. I will be putting it once this live session is over. So we'll be finding that link as well. And you have to just simply log in using an user ID. Definitely you'll be able to download all these assets from here. Okay, so that's about the people who do not have access, do not know how to access it, right? So now coming to our part, this is the points where you'll be finding all the, so this is actually all the recommendations have been given here. And also while doing this, you have to document what are the decisions you have taken. This is a step one. This is a step two. Okay, follow the leading practices for RBPs and all. Document decisions, whatever you have taken. Document, decide who will implement and validate these configurations. If you are having an implementation partner, that is well and good. If it is a part of the implementation itself. Otherwise, if you're having your internal team, your internal IT team, your internal IT security team, or HR security team, they are doing, there should be a team who should be implement, and other persons should be, especially our HR folks and business. Before you give them handover to the testing, you yourself first test all the scenarios, right? Think about the scenarios from a different holistically, right? So then ensure the tests in an instance and production always in sync. Okay, that is again we have already talked about in the instance strategy. Utilize the RBP workbooks. There are various groups. Document the groups, roles, permissions. Okay, they contain the different mappings to the groups. Present the approach and gate stakeholder buy-in. So this is very important one. This is coming under your, as I said, in your governance part. Whenever you're finalizing this kind of stuff, discuss. Should not implement of your anything of your own, whatever you like it, but discuss and get it approved by the stakeholders. What is your approach as a consultant or as an architect? Then get it approved, get the stakeholders buy-in from there, right? Then some additional resources here. So you have to always definitely create those test scripts and all. And you can see there are some various links you will be referring. I'll be referring here. So maybe this is one. I think this link is broken, so don't worry. So there are some other documents. Use a list of, okay. Use the check tool. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think this is some of the links are broken. So don't worry. It's actually this is you need to check it out. RBP reports. Yeah. So anyway, don't worry. This is actually a part of your implementation guide. Also, you'll be finding all those details. Okay. So I will guide you. Actually, what are the, maybe we'll be checking out with SAP as well. Why these links are broken. Maybe we'll check out with the recent one. There are some troubleshooting guide. Those definitely will be getting in your KBAs, different knowledge-based articles are there. Okay. So you'll be finding them there. Okay. So this is something which you will find. This is step number 4. Okay. So this is strategy point. RBP, whenever you are designing a strategy, basically we will be putting in the strategy, our RBP strategy. So here already we have discussed a lot of things, right? Concept you understood, key steps you understood, right? But now from a strategy point of view, we will be trying to understand overall strategy here, like specific to the RBP. I will say that you have to understand the requirement, right? So this is the first point. Strategy in action, we'll say. So there are 4 steps. What are the 4 steps? The first one is to understand the requirement. So inside that, we have understood the main point is here, local versus global. So you to understand the pros and cons of. If you're having a single country, then there's no harm. Means actually you don't have that kind of a complication, right? So to understand the pros and cons of your having a local system, then global system. Many times if you're having a single global system, it may be cost effective. Okay, so you have to check it out. Then after understanding the requirement, what is the next step? So any other points you can also put in the chat. So to take global permission ownership, you have to understand ownership and governance. So this is again connecting the dot between this and this, right? We are just trying to connect this to this governance. Okay. So inside that, we also understand ownership, who is the owner of what kind of thing, what kind of permission, ownership, and also at the same time, you have to understand your governance. So this is actually very closely interlinked. Okay, so we cannot leave strategy with governance, and also we have to understand both things, governance, right? So understand the requirement, and that is the points, right? The next part we have discussed. This is again understand the general leading practices for RBP, which is actually again we are discussing again and again, but nothing new here. But we'll just try to put it here like that. So for that, you have to understand the entire guide, all the interlinked guides actually. So for that, what I will do, I will put this link. So this mind map you'll be getting who are participating in the hackathon, and you'll be getting from here. So in this, let's say I'll be putting it in the comment section. So this is where exactly you'll be able to download all the leading practices. Now, after the step number 2, and we understood document everything. That is the hard part of it. Third part of it is actually, this is the one. Document your approach, everything. And after documenting the approach, you have to, the next step in this, you have to project and get stakeholder buy-in, which is very important as the architect or as a consultant. Stakeholder buy-in is very important because they are the persons who will be approving whatever you will be doing in your organizations. So it's very important to have a buy-in, getting buy-in from there as soon as possible, right? So this is the things, the third up step, and the fourth step is perform the validation. So do this again, all kind of testing. You have to do testing, troubleshooting. So validation is very important. In the validation, what you need to do? Testing. Testing with various tools. Check tool you can utilize, or there are so many other things. So check tool. Then we can use apart from the validations. There is an option. There are various reports also. You can check it out. There are RBP reports you can create, and you can validate who is having what kind of permission instead of looking into the managed permission role, managed permission groups. Rather, you create a reports, right? So that is a better way of doing it. Okay, and yeah, so this is something you can do in detailed way. So this is the fourth step. Okay, so now coming to the strategy in action. So we have understood what are the major 4 steps available, and accordingly you can proceed further, right? So hope you understood this was the 4 different steps, right? From as an architect, you have to understand, as a consultant also you have to understand all these things, right? So this is a strategy in action we try to understand today, right? Now, coming to the next type, if you have any queries, I'll take a pause here and you can, yeah. Okay, so this is simple. So we will then proceed to the next activities, the RBP implementation. Whenever you are doing the RBP implementation, the responsibilities, right? So as we talk about a lot about the responsibilities right today also. In the strategy, I will back to the governance once again. So here in the governance, we talked about the responsibilities, right? So in your responsibility, it can be driven by a RASI matrix you can create, or inside that, maybe you will be having a structure like who will be the primary response, who will be primary responsible for what, and who will be secondary responsible for what. So all these things you can mention as per your RACI matrix. And if you do not know what is a RACI matrix, I would recommend to, there are so many blogs, you will be getting that. So RACI matrix, you will be getting a template, right? So it is the project management concept. So you will be finding those details here. Okay, so maybe I will be giving you an authentic one. Project management wiki. Okay, so there are so many things. Yeah, let's see. So I don't think there's a template as such, but let's see. If there is, yeah. So these are 4 things: responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. Right. So people or stakeholder who do the work. Okay. So they are the responsible and accountable. So there is accountability matrix, and accordingly who will be accountable and all. So you'll be finding a lot of details about. There are so many templates also available in the RACI matrix. If you not, you do just stick with your project manager, then definitely they will be able to give to you. Right. So this is something more coming from a project management concept, right? But as a consultant also, we should understand, or as an architect, you should understand who are responsible for what. And same thing you can see here in this, there's nothing different from that. So whenever you are doing any RBP implementations, who will be doing what? So again, the first activity, you can see the building the role-based permission strategy and scoping, okay, which is very important in a project. So that is your primary responsibility, because this is more retaining, you're pertaining to the business, right? So you understand better your business as a client, as a customer, right? So the customer must take this responsibility. So they are the primary responsible person here, right? So here, the project should understand what during your initial design phase, okay? So it's part of a project plan, okay? So the entire RBP requirements, the ownership lies in the customer. The customer has to understand what kind of permissions will be given in what. And secondary, actually, this can be your SAP, okay, or your any implementation partner if they are involved, okay, they will be part of that secondary responsibility, okay. So now once it is done, second activity is review your role permission recommendation and leading practice. Okay, so now this is coming. We after consulting your customers and all, after understanding the high level business processes, understanding the security strategy of the organizations, it is a responsibility. Actually, SAP here we are mentioning, but again at the same time, if you're implementation partner, you have to understand who will be doing what. At the same time, you have to follow the RBP, our ALP series guide, the entire architectural leading practices guide. Accordingly, you will discuss with the customer to review and the entire RBP framework, whether you are aligned, it is aligned with your what are the leading practices offered by, given by SAP actually. Okay, so here SAP or the implementation partner, they will be leading this activity, and the customer will be secondary responsible. Okay. Third point: walkthrough of role-based workbooks and impact in the system. Okay, so role-based RBP, it will be documented in a functional configuration workbooks for each and every module, okay, and dedicated workbooks prepared by SAP consultants. Okay, so here actually it's a little tricky, because many times if you are a customer, you are implementing for the first time, you may not be familiar about your all the workbooks. So here definitely you are the owner of the workbooks, but again you need to take help from the SAP, and also if you are having an implementation partner, take help from them. And they will help you in designing and walkthrough that for that particular workbook, where in that workbook you have to decide each and every part of that, right? So now coming to the configurations, again, configuration will be done by the implementation partner or SAP. So based on your which project stages you are in, and role-based permissions will be performed by SAP knowledge transfer to be provided to the customer. Once your process is over, once your implementation is over, that knowledge transfer will be given by SAP or the implementation partner to the customer, so that in the future, once your project is go live is done, you don't have to reach out to the implementation partner or the SAP again and again. You can manage it yourself. Many times I have seen also in the internal team, in the mostly the leading clients, they do have their own internal in-house team, or sometimes they call it the center of excellence, whatever you call it. So they have their own internal team who manages all these things, and they are also any minor changes they do not depends upon SAP or implementation partner or support partner. They can also do it themselves. It's not so difficult to do it. Okay, so that also you have to understand. That is again a responsibility. Configuration responsibility lies in your, if you're part of an implementation, definitely your implementation partner or SAP will be doing that for you. If not, then definitely as an internal team or as part of a COE, Center of Excellence, your organization should be able to do that, right? Next, coming to the validating role-based permissions. Again, this is a kind of the part of your testing cycle, as security testing cycle, it should come up, and your customer, as a customer, you should be able to perform that, right? So that is your primary here. You are coming into the primary responsibility, and in any during that testing, if you find something not up to your satisfaction, or if you are finding some defects, or you have need some clarifications, you will have to always reach out to SAP for that. And also, in case you are having implementation or support partner, do not forget to reach out to them, right? This is another activities. Now coming to the next one. So this is the last one, is also very important. You have to understand customer instances are in sync prior to the RBP implementations. Yeah. So this is a syncing activity. You have to understand your whatever your instance you are using. So it must be in sync. Okay. So that is something you have to understand, right? So now that was from an activities point of view. We have discussed a little bit of, again, as we say, today's session is more of like switching between the governance and strategy both. So we understood in the responsibility that from an entire RASI matrix point of view, there are various activities. So who will be doing what? Again, you can decide this kind of matrix. Generally, this is although it is presented here as a presentation in a PPT format, ideally it should go in an Excel sheet. Okay, so in Excel sheet, you mention in a RACI matrix. In that, you can mention all these details. Okay, so that's a typical project management activity. You can download it is freely available. Those RACI matrix, you can just Google it. You'll be finding a template for that, and you'll be able to do that. Maybe thereafter, I will be having a short activity in the hackathon series, and just wait for that. Now coming to the implementation point of view, right? So whenever in permission framework, what are the different points you have to consider during your implementations? Okay, so this is something, this diagram we should be able to understand. Let me zoom it a bit, a little bit right hand side. Hope you understood this. Okay, so you can see there are two boxes. Rather, I will say one right hand side, the permission role. The left hand side, you can see there is something called granted user group, right? So in this series, you will be finding in the permission role, what are the different permissions roles are already given. Okay, so whenever you're practicing, just let me pull it out here like this. And you can see this is the looks like hierarchies. And in the top, it is the all. That means all the permissions, all in the entire target user group you are focusing, and hierarchically, if you down the below, so again, this is the granularities again, right? So in the right hand side, you can see the permission roles like a super administration system, super administrator who is having all the permission, right? So they will be from a granted user group, access to all data and configuration globally. Okay, so this is again, you will be having in that group 2 to 3 employees who will be taking care of that. So now that is super admin. In an organization, definitely will be having a super administrator, 2 to 3 employees. Why it's recommended to have 2. So maybe in case of an absence of someone, one super admin, the other one will actually manage that. Okay, so that is why we recommend 2 to 3 global super admin you should have. Then we comes to a system admin. System admin means it's a more focused on the IT point of view. And here he will be, that group will be having that access to the all kind of integration center, single sign-on, your entire technical settings of that. Again, it is actually should be given 2 to 3 people. It should be part of that. No sensitive data access. Okay, so super admin may have access to everything, but when it comes to system admin, that's the best practice. You should not give an sensitive data access to that particular group. Okay, so now coming to the next level. Next level, it is actually, so I'm going actually kind of a top-down approach here, not bottom-up. So from the top, actually, I'm coming down. Okay. So in the next part, you will be seeing a module super admin. Okay. So in an organization, you will be having for different modules, you will be having a different administrator. Like let's say in the employee central, you will be having a super administrator who will be based on the data. Okay. So based on data. Okay. So we can access higher level module based on all configuration settings that affects the entire module. It is again one per module with one backup. Okay, so again, for everything, you can see there is a one person or one person with one backup we are giving. Okay, so it's the best practice. For even if you are having EC super admin, you can have a two super admin, one for regular and one for actually who can back up the particular EC super admin. Similar in this example, this is not not limited to this many modules only, but for the modules, whatever in your scope, you can decide. Okay. So for RCM, onboarding, compensation, learning, EC position management, this is just this list is not exhaustive. This is just an example given. But again, for every modules, you will be having your typical super administrator for that. And based on that, you will be based on your data level. Okay, so compensation means only the compensation data, compensation related configuration, compensation related, okay, all the stuffs, templates, and all you will be having access. So now coming to the next level, after the module super admin, you will be having module like we have, if you remember correctly, and we have discussed the same thing in our instance strategy in the previous one of the previous session, where we discussed with an example we had given that if you're having super one global admin, and if you remember correctly, then I have discussed there like here. If you have not, then I will just have a quick recap. So in the RBP already we have discussed this thing, like this case study we have discussed, right? The example you have given, there is a company called OneEd, and in that company one will be one global super admin, let's say. And if the company is having local admin in let's say Denmark, US, India, and Brazil, right? Then you will be having their local admin. This is what actually they are trying to cover in this deck. Okay, so you will be having one or two module super admin, and again you will be having a local admin based on your country, region, company code. So in our case, in this case study which we discussed in the earlier session, this is the specific to those country specific local admin. Okay, so here in the local admin we have we can have a different roles again, like as per the module. You will be having HRBP, HR admin, recruiters, recruiting coordinators, onboarding administrator, compensation. This list is again not an exhausted one. You can have this list can go on and on, right? Based on your how many modules you have implemented in your organizations, right? Now you will be having the targeted data based on the country. So you will suppose you are taking care of, let's say in this example, you are a local administrator in India. So you should not have your target employees in the US. So you should not be able to access your US other or Denmark or Brazil, other countries' data. Okay, so that is the target should be very fixed based on the countries. Okay, so that should be very clear. The third part, the next part is actually managers. So after administrator, the managers, let's say this example, direct reports to the entire org structure. So you'll be having managers which are having permission. In this example, they have given a compensation, performance, or succession management example. So only that pertaining to your particular structure, based on the structure, only you will be having a particular people who are reporting to you, only those you will be having access, not the entire organization, right? Suppose you are part of a finance department or supply chain department, let's say, and you will be having people who are reporting to you in that particular department, not the other departments, right? So that is a kind of a departmental managers or your specific particular module, right? Now coming to the next one is all managers. Okay? So you can have another group, okay, for all the managed across the organization. Similarly, for this is a kind of a MSS service, you can say, where manager self-service kind of a stuff. And last one is all employees. It is just like the largest population will be here. Okay, so all employees across globe. Okay, so they means it's a kind of employee self-service, like people will be able to access all the employee standard functionalities, like in employee self-service. You will be having access to your employee profile or people profile and all the major modules, whatever in the employee central, you will be as an end user, you should be able to access. So this is a diagram. Whenever you understand this diagram, okay, if any question you can ask me. This is very simple to just to visualize the thing. So the text part I'm not going to read it. Okay, so it is you can start it, and the one of the finest principle I always believe in, start simple. Do not do something for very big. Whenever you're starting, start simple, then you keep on adding the complexity over and over a period of time as you need it. Okay, so a few things actually I'm not going here. And if one thing you have to remember, whenever you are giving any kind of a global permission, doesn't require any target. This is again you have to understand. So that is something you have to understand. And data dependency again. So it is very dependent upon your client data, and employee centric manager matrix such a relations is required for if you're having an employee centric permission model. Very important one. This is also. And similar thing you can also replicate, mirror it in the RBP part. Now coming to the employee data must be loaded fast before creating the permission element. So this is also when you have to understand, right? And define data needed to support the required permissions. So data is available through employee central or a data input. So while testing all these things, you may not have the all, suppose your organization is having 1 lakh employees. So you don't have to import all the 1 lakh employees, rather some tests employees covering all kind of a scenario, you can put it there. Okay. So that is something it is trying to explain. Maybe what are the different scenarios you'll be having, accordingly you can have those specific data set, and you have to prepare those data set accordingly, you can test them. So as we speak, start simple. That means discuss on to determine the roles. Start with the most generic roles, like in every organization we are having, like everyone. Self-service, employee, manager, and matrix manager. This is a common thing in every organization, irrespective of the geography, irrespective of the size, and irrespective of the industries, right? This is a very common thing across organization. You have to understand that. So now coming to the HR role specification, like early in the project. Okay, so you have to understand what are the different roles available in the project. Accordingly, you have to plan. Similarly, as we said already, that you have to understand you have to complete your permission workbook, whatever you are having, and leverage similar kind of a tool for planning permission. So this is something, this is a guidance here. Okay, so this is again how to understand. Okay, so further details have been explained here from system design point of view. What are the things actually you have to take care? Okay, so I'm not going to read all these things. This is a task, this is a homework for you. Okay, so maybe you can ask questions after going through this. So it doesn't, it's not so difficult to understand. Like from a system admin point of view, what will it include? From module specific admin point of view, what are the typical examples they have given, right? So from an end user point of view, like employee or manager self-service and all, so what are the things you have to do? Those details have been from a planning point of view and preparation point of view, they have covered it. Okay. And same thing actually from local planning. Okay. So from a local governance point of view, what are the typically you to take care, that they have explained here. So I'm not going to read all this in detail. So there's a concept of a dynamic role also. You have to understand those details. Okay. Maybe we are not able to complete it in today's session. So maybe in tomorrow's sessions, we will be continuing from here. Okay. So we will discuss if you have any question. Meanwhile, I will expect that you go through this diagram very carefully. And this will be your guiding principle, your guiding North Star whenever you are discussing these things with your organization, any clients. Okay. And what kind of questions you can ask also, they have it whenever you are. Now, again, we are coming back to our governance structure. So in this, the diagram, the mind map, which I was discussing. So now, again, we'll switch back to our security strategies, this part, right? And security governance. So this part actually is the security governance. Again, the slide is talking about that, how to define a clear governance structure and what kind of questions you have to ask it. Okay. So this kind of things you have to ask on a regular basis, or any new features is added every 6 months. SAP keeps on adding SuccessFactors 1H and 2H release there, you keep on adding the new functionalities, new features. Okay, how does it impact your process governance? That they are talking about in this particular part. Okay, so maybe I will be discussing, we'll be taking more that in tomorrow's sessions. Okay, so meanwhile, you just access, so you do all these things, go through it. Okay, just to have a pre-read, and we will be in the tomorrow sessions. We will be, I think, the remaining part. It will be a short session tomorrow. And we will be covering, and then I will be taking any Q&A you are having. What are the Q&A question and answer you're having? And also there are some reading practices has been given for a specific to role specific, especially the LMS one, if you look into, it is having a completely different one. Right? So that will be seen in the upcoming sessions. Okay. This is the point. Very nicely it has been presented in this presentation. Okay. So what is controlled by RBP, what is not controlled by RBP. Also, this is actually something to be handy. You don't have to remember as such, but you have to, whenever you're desiring, this would be in your discussion point, right? What can be controlled, what can be controlled by RBP, what may not be controlled. This is summary side. Okay. This is the upcoming, in the tomorrow session will continue, and we will then, if any Q&A you are having, and we will continue from that. So this part will be having a 3C section also. So tomorrow it will be the remaining part we'll discuss, and we will close this permission framework strategy or the security strategy tomorrow. So with that note, security governance, actually, we will take another episode. So the 3C will be your, like, it will be a combination of your strategy and your, will be more of a kind of a recap, and Q&A will be taking up. And also the final part, actually, that we will cover in tomorrow's sessions, Q&A and overall planning. Okay. So with that note, we will stop here. And if you have any questions, definitely you can reach out. And it will be uploaded. It is already means with shortly you'll be finding if you're watching the live. Okay. So stay tuned. So this live session will be coming back to this entire playlist shortly. And remember to bookmark this website. And if you are very keen on practicing joining the community, you can always come and join in. So that will be the Success Labs community. So how you can do that? Simply go to the Success Labs Academy. That is the main site where I will be having any, if you have any questions, then definitely you can book a session with me. First one is if you're very new to the community, if you're not a member of this, simply you can book a Calendly session. So Calendly link will be there and just find out the appointment from here. And from that appointment, you can just book your appointment from here. It is simple as easy. Sundays, I do not have any sessions. So mostly either in the night time, in the Indian standard timing. This is the timing we'll be having Saturdays. And then the working days, you would be having mostly in the night time, you will be having 4 appointments, 15 minutes each. Okay, so that is where we can discuss and all. I'll be more than happy. So this is more of a clarity session. So it's not like in detail. So you'll be at a point we can book only one session. Okay. Once you're a member of any of this, then you can ask any questions like that. Okay. So there is a different membership and all. So if you want to view all the courses and all, you can find out. And if you are working for any, so all the FAQs I have put it here, what will be the mode of teaching and mentoring model and everything. Actually, you may be having these questions that you're already having access to Learning Hub or your Workday framework. So how it will be different? Okay, so you will be having all these details. You'll be finding all the answers. You're here. If you know not still, if you have some queries, then definitely I'll be more than happy to answer. And also you can put your anything your queries. You can join. Okay, you can put your message here. I will be able to monitor that as well. Okay, the best way to do a live and one-on-one. And this model is also applicable not only for the people who are working professional, but also like individual students who are actually just completing their MBA in HR, irrespective of the geographies. Okay, because SuccessFactors, Workday, these products globally used, whether you are in the US or Canada or India or any of that other countries, definitely can get opportunities there. Okay. Also, it is applicable for your academic universities and colleges. Maybe I have seen that in organizations, university, there's a very huge gap between academia and industry. People expect a lot to do, but that's kind of a practical stuff are not taught in the academia. They're focusing on the theoretical part. To some extent, I have seen some of the organizations, some of the institutions, they're doing a little bit of simulations and all, but that is very limited. Okay, but if you want to have some kind of a sponsorship or you want to take such kind of subscription for your academia, industries, your school, colleges, okay, and specifically MBA HR students and also for corporates, if you're struggling, if you do not have a bandwidth to coach or mentor to your people, they always contact me. So all are group coaching prayer support points, so we can discuss. So this is more than I'll be more than happy to help you in this all category. And the school will be means. So if you click here, you'll be finding the where exactly I have all the courses, mentoring, coaching, all everything. These are all live sessions, and also you'll be having a mix of those recorded sessions as well. Okay, so these are all not like your Coursera, Udemy, only you have fixed course. These are all dynamic, ever expanding library, I will say, the video libraries. And also you can book your session. There are community sessions. There are some other sessions as well. So you can find your questions. You can go to the community and you can ask your questions there and there. You can write a blog. All the facilities you will be getting in this part, right? So that's all about for today's session. So we'll stop here and we will continue with the next part in the episode 3, where I'll be taking a lot of Q&A and what are the troubleshooting. Okay, maybe what are the challenges you might be having, that we will discuss in the tomorrow's session. So stay tuned. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.